always tried to take care of people, and he was a man ahead of his time. His students, as my sister pointed out, when we let him know about when I sent an email to the IIT Kharagpur, which is kind of like MIT, everybody poured their welcome to us. They sent all kinds of emails, and all the people who remembered him from 1968 had similar stories about him. They said they looked up to him, but he was apparently one of the youngest heads of departments there. But he had a vision of how planning should be. He didn't act superior to the students, and all of them said how he used to sit with them and have tea. He used to talk to them without any affectation. And in those days, there was a strict hierarchy, and they said a lot of times the head of the department treated you as if you were less than nothing, because these students, some of them came at the age of 15. They were very young and impressionable. One man wrote us and said that at that young age, he had an engineering professor who bullied him and would not allow him into class after he whispered some small thing to a classmate because he wanted to understand the lecture. The professor then blocked him from entering the next two classes, and the other classmates were so enraged that they all walked out of class to support this person. This was considered death to your career. This would have been a very, very bad thing to do, because back then the institution would not have put up with that behavior. This student was so distraught, he went to Dad in his office. Dad talked to him for a long time, and he said to him, "Go and apologize to this professor." Of course, the student said, "Oh, why should I do this? I've been treated badly." Dad said, "Just go and apologize, and say it sincerely. Don't stomp in and apologize and run out again as if you don't mean it." So he did that, and this professor let him back in. And at the end of the year, apparently this professor failed everyone in the class except two people, and one of them was this man. So Dad had obviously gone behind the scenes and supported him. Apparently, word around the campus was that the board had then questioned my father on why he did not take action against all the students who had walked out of the class. But he had chosen to support these people. So he was ahead of his time. He wasn't afraid to stand up for what he believed in. Another memory I have, and I don't want to cry, so I'm going to say it very carefully. When we were in school, we had to take a school bus. And those were the days when there were no, especially in India, there were no regulations. There was no seatbelt laws or anything like that. And I remember that he used to meet me at the school bus. When I got off, the school bus started going again, but there was another girl who was not quite off the bus, and she was hanging on and being dragged along. Well, everybody, of course, started yelling, "Stop, stop, stop." Well, when he stopped, I think he was probably regretted it, because my dad walked up and everybody could hear the yelling when my dad told him, "You should never, never do this. You should never start a school bus until all the children are off, etc., etc." He always stood up for people. He never liked to see injustice, and he didn't, even if it was politically beneficial to him, that wasn't as important to him as saying what was right. So I think he was very supportive. He used to counsel me on just not worrying about what other people think too much. He said, just follow your interests, and you will meet people who have similar interests. And he said, if someone doesn't like you, it is their loss. It is not yours. He also said, what else did he say? He encouraged me in taking my job. When I took a job 21 years ago that I had not all the qualifications for, he encouraged me to take it. He said, you can always learn. Don't ever be afraid to take a leap, and have faith in yourself that you will be able to learn to do this. And I think everyone in life needs someone to tell them that they can do something they're afraid to do. 21 years later, I'm still there. They haven't fired me. So obviously he was right, and I'm glad he counseled me that way. So I could go on, but he was a wonderful man, and that's everything. Thank you.
name is Shyam Dandekar. I met Manya as early as 1970, and from there on we have been getting together all the time, and I had the privilege of attending all the functions at Manya's place taking place. So after that, one more short introduction. My wife comes from Ratnagiri, Manya's hometown. So Manya was very protective of her. He told me, she is Mahir Bachar, she belongs to us. I think that much is enough for introduction. Jojo wanted me to read some stanzas from Gita talking about the soul and the self, which is second chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, which explains the immortality of soul. So I will read those chapters for you. First I will read them in Sanskrit, the initial language, and then I will read the translation so you can follow it. Boy, I had it, I took it out.
Which was it, chapter 2?
Yeah, here. Yeah, it's here. Okay. वासोऽसि जीर्णानि यथा विहायो नवानि गृह्णाति नरोपराणि तथा शरीराणि विहाय जीर्णानि अन्यानि संयाति नवानि देहि. The translation says, even as a man casts off worn out clothes and puts on new clothes which are new, so the embodied cast off worn out bodies and enters the new ones which are new. That is the first part. Second part, Nainam chintanti shastrani, Nainam dahati pavakaha, Nachainam kledayantapo, Nashoshvate marutaha. It explains why you should not grieve for the dead body. This self, weapons cannot cut, the fires cannot burn it, the water cannot wet it, and the wind cannot dry it. So all these Panchamahabhutas, 5 elements of life, they are for the soul, so you should not worry about the past body. Acchedyoyam adayoyam akledyo shoshevacha nitya sarvagata sthanu achaloyam sanatanaha. This self cannot be cut, cannot be burned, cannot be wetted or dried, changeless, all-pervading, unmoving, immovable, the self is eternal. Avyaktoham achintyoyam avikaryoyam uchyate tasmadevam viditvainam nanishochitumarashi. This self is said to be unmanifested, unthinkable, unchangeable. Therefore, knowing this to be the case, you should not mourn for the dead body. I think that is a real good explanation of Hindu religion. They believe in the reincarnation, and this is a part of the theory of reincarnation. Thank you all.
So I think the two things I really remember about Manya. One is also seeing him doing yoga outside. So that was like, oh, okay. And the other thing was that changed my life in a big way was Monty Python. And going over, I think one of the first things going over to Beale Street and on the old tube there, watching Monty Python, everyone cracking up and starting to appreciate British humor in a big way. And that I will never forget.
first met Dad?
Well, I was still in Brookline High, I would guess. That would be, 16 probably, 15, 16, something like that. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a few years ago.